President Trump's decision breaks with decades of U.S. foreign policy. So what could this mean for America's role in the region? Perry Cammack is a Middle East Program Fellow with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. His focus is on the long-term trends in the region and U.S. foreign policy. So many people came out and said, don't do this. I mean, even his national security team was like, don't do this. And of course, he marches to his own drum, as we know. So talk to me about the rationale behind it, as you see it, and the possible repercussions.
Well, I assume the rationale is that essentially Congress demanded this through the Jerusalem Act in the 1990s for 20 years, plus 3 successive administrations have opted not to do the act, which is to both move the embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. You know, frankly, I find that not a compelling argument. There's a reason why for 20 years, 3 successive administrations, both Democrat and Republican, have opted to issue the national security waiver because essentially, yes, the U.S. will recognize Israel, but only in the context of a negotiated 2-state solution. So in that sense, I think this is a step backwards in the sense that the great negotiator essentially gave one of the principal chips that the United States has to Prime Minister Netanyahu for free.
You know, it's interesting. He said that his son-in-law was going to broker the ultimate deal, but one would think that this makes this much tougher to broker a deal. What does this do to the process itself?
I agree. I mean, it's very difficult to get in the mindset of any president, but I would argue particularly this one. But I do wonder if it doesn't reflect a recognition that although I think they were sincere in their desire to try to broker an Israeli-Palestinian negotiation, I think they may have been confronted with the reality that the cards to make that happen just weren't there. So I do think this is a step backwards. We'll see over the next couple of days. I think we'll know very soon what the reaction from the Palestinian street, from the Arab street is, whether there's a real move to violence or if, as I hope, things settle down. In that case, then, I think the real question is where does the process go from here and where does the United States go as a mediator, as a broker for that process, not just in 2018, but in years to come.
Do you look for a different broker? I mean, obviously, you're going to have one side that feels as though they're not an honest broker.
Correct. I mean, frankly, at this point, there wasn't much of a process to repair, so I'm less concerned with the damage that this does to the imminent Trump initiative, but I do think it makes it that much harder to deal with the underlying issues at stake here.
He's deploying the vice president to the region. How well is that going to go on the heels of this?
Well, I'm sure he'll receive a wildly warm celebration in Israel, obviously, and a very frosty one from the Arabs. I think part of the calculation here is that aside from perhaps Jordan and the Palestinians, I think many of the Arab states are frankly distracted with other issues, whether it's Syria, whether it's Yemen, whether it's Iran. So they're kind of public protestations notwithstanding, I suspect that the Trump administration feels that they can weather the storm from some of their Arab partners in the weeks and months ahead.
You know, one of the things is they're saying, you know, the argument at the White House is that this demonstrates he's someone who stands by his word, isn't intimidated by threats, doesn't cave to international pressure. This is putting out a strong leader. What do you say to that argument?
Well, I think that's exactly right, but I would go back to where I started, which was George Bush was a decisive leader as well. Barack Obama could be, when situation merited, a decisive leader, and they decided that the upside isn't worth the risk. And so for me, the question is, what does the U.S. actually get in this case, and what is at risk? And the upside benefit to this is pretty marginal, where the risk, I think, is quite significant.
Perry, thanks so much for your observations. Appreciate it.
Thank you.